We're walking into the ancient Agora of Athens. On the left is the 500-foot-long Stoa of Attalos. And the reason we're coming here is because in Acts 17:17, the Apostle Paul came here every day, just like we're walking. And we're walking down this ramp, and straight up in front of me you see the Parthenon and the Acropolis, and that is the Pan-Athenic way. It's the all Athena way, where the people would go up to see the goddess of wisdom. Coming down this pathway, these four monumental entry markers are to the Odeon, and every stoa had an Odeon. An Odeon is a music hall. And like we saw in our lesson on the Epikoregos, the Odeon was so important because music and music festivals were huge in the ancient world. And so Paul came here to this marketplace every day, it says in verse 17. And as he walked through and saw people, he would just begin to have conversations with them. And others would listen to him. And that's how he got the invitation to go up to the Areopagus. As we're walking, we see off to the far right is the one of the many temples, and it was the temple to Zeus and the 12 gods of the pantheon. Up in front of us, you see the temple of Hephaestus. This is actually the best preserved Greek temple of the classical period. And when that temple up on the hill, Hephaestus, was built, Greece was at its height. It was called the University of the World. And Aristotle and Socrates and Plato were all here teaching and making advances in philosophy, the sciences, and of course the arts. One historian said it was easier to find a god, or at least an idol representing a god, than it was to find a person in Athens. There were 30,000 different altars, temples, and statues that were dotting this city. Now you can see the perfect Doric architecture. Remember, there are three types of Greek architecture. Each one is more ornate, and the way you can tell the difference is the word gets longer the more ornate the architecture is. Doric, then Ionic, and then Corinthian. Now this is all Doric, early classical 6th century BC Greek architecture, the best preserved Greek temple that's in existence. The name of this temple is the Temple to Hephaestus, and this temple would have been looking down on the Apostle Paul as he taught and reasoned every day with those who were in the marketplace below. So the Temple of Hephaestus on the left, and then straight in front of us is the Royal Stoa of Attalos, the king of Pergamum, he bought this for the people of Athens when this was the premier city of the world. And in that Stoa, King Herod walked 40 BC as he was journeying to Rome to get the permission to be the king of Judea. As we walk, you can see that Stoa. It's actually inside 300 feet long, 260 some feet long. But when Herod saw that, he said, I'm going to make the colonnade in Jerusalem much grander, and he did. So once again, you see the pediment, that's the dark stones, that's the base of the temples. All the Greek temples are built in the same style. You notice that the pillars are each 2 to 3 foot sections, and they're joined together with lead pieces that were melted and poured in. And as they joined them this way, they were very resilient with earthquakes because the lead is malleable, so it would take some of the shock and the movement of the earthquakes. That's why this temple has stood so beautifully for the 2,600 years that since it was built. Again, straight in front of us, the Stoa that Herod used to build the Solomon's portico. And in the book of Acts, that's the description of where the early church met. So as you look at that colonnade, and after a while we're going to walk through there, you can just imagine what it was like for the early church. Up in front of us, you see Mars Hill, or the Hill of Ares, the god of war. And to the left, the Parthenon, the Acropolis. So Paul would have walked through this marketplace every day, Acts 17 says. And the people that heard him in the marketplace invited him to go up there on Mars Hill, where you see all the little dots of people walking at the top. And they invited him to explain what he'd been sharing as he walked around the marketplace. Again, Mars Hill, the Acropolis, Parthenon. Now we're coming down into the lower Agora, Roman Forum. And as it says in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus went often in the Decapolis city region into the marketplaces. So what you see in front of you is what every Roman city had. They all had forums, agoras, and marketplaces. This was the actual heart of Athens for 1,200 years. This is the place where business was conducted. This is where shopping took place. Bathhouses were here. The Odeon was here for the music concerts. And everything you see around are meeting halls for councils, temples for gods, and of course all of it in the shadow of the Parthenon, the temple to the goddess of wisdom. So everything that we're walking on is from the time that Paul was walking through here sharing the gospel. day after day, his habit of life, looking for someone he could talk to. One of the great habits in life for us as believers is to think about who can I today share a verbal witness with. On the right, it's the public clock, the water clock. They could keep time and know what time it was for their appointments. That Royal Stoa in front of us is the secondary choice for Mars Hill, because the Areopagus started up there on Mars Hill on that rocky, very steep outcrop that we've had a lesson on. But later, in centuries past, the classical period, they started meeting in this Stoa after it was built in the 2nd century BC. Must have been amazing to have seen the Acropolis in its glory with gold covered figures and all the different reliefs that were chiseled into the pediment and into the inner chambers. To the left, you see the pillars of the Odeon, the music hall. We're coming up on this ramp that you see people walking down. That goes the entire way, all the way through this whole forum area. It's called the Pan-Athenic Way, all Athena Way. It's the way that people would go when they were walking in sacred procession to seek wisdom from Athena. And up there at the top was her temple. Now as we go into the Stoa, remember Herod saw this as he was on his way to Rome. And when he saw it, he thought, this is what I want to have. And as we walk through, you can see what the temple colonnade, Solomon's portico, it's called in the book of Acts. Now, of course, Solomon made it much longer. This is about 260 feet long. It's about 30 feet wide. Solomon made his 1,200 feet long and 300 feet wide. So his columns were 60 feet high, and these are only 20 plus pediments, maybe 24 feet high, so 2.5 times taller. All these statues are part of what they have found, honorary statues, as well as the different gods. It says in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, that Jesus walked through the temple much like this colonnade and taught, I am the light of the world. In the same area, Solomon's portico, he taught, I am the good shepherd. So this is very much the setting for what Jesus would have used in his teaching ministry in the Gospels when he was in the temple in Jerusalem, modeled after this very Stoa.